As we reflect and look at the personalities of Peter and Paul, chalk and cheese would be the expression that we'd use to define them, I suppose. We see that God called them to use their personalities to spread the gospel. Peter to use his impetuous love to look after the flock, and Paul to use his training as a Pharisee and his strength of character to ensure that the non-Jews would be welcomed into the church. It's a reminder to us that our talents and our weaknesses too can become God's means of helping others. We only have to allow it. We don't have to be perfect for God to work through us. God can work through us, through our faults and our failings, as he did with Peter and Paul. As we start to turn the corner in our battle with coronavirus, maybe it's time to recognise the new gifts and talents we have discovered during this time of great upheaval. Maybe it's a time to recognise we are all imperfect, all weak and vulnerable. Maybe it's a time to recognise that we really do need each other. Maybe it's a time to recognise what is really important in our lives and start to appreciate it more. Perhaps it's a time to recognise individually we're a force to be reckoned with, and collectively a force for so much good. Maybe it's a time to recognise that God has been working in and through us. Christianity is a religion grounded in history. It's based not just on ideas or visions, but on the person of Jesus Christ, believed to be God, appearing in human history. The Catholic Church also claims a unique historical grounding in the apostles Peter and Paul, who were linked directly to Jesus by call and conversion to proclaim his message to the world. The city of Rome makes a further unique claim to a special relationship by asserting that both Peter and Paul were martyred there. Peter, identified by Jesus as the rock on whom the church was founded, is held to be the first in a long line of leaders. What the church claims historically, it celebrates liturgically in today's solemnity of Peter and Paul. It's an impressive history, even if it requires many interpretive lenses to justify these claims or downplay the fact that all history is written to affirm the institutions that emerge from the crises, confusion and competition of the centuries to lock their particular narratives in stone and ceremony. The real proof of authenticity is an institution's fidelity to its founding principles. In the case of the church, it is credible only when it acts like Jesus, who sided with the poor and the outcast, taught and lived God's limitless mercy, and laid down his life for love. Peter and Paul are remarkable models who both failed deeply. Peter denied his Lord to save his own life. Paul persecuted the followers of Jesus. More institutions would have been tempted to edit their CVs and airbrush out the negatives to make them seem more heroic. But it is in fact their conversions that affirmed the power of God's grace that enabled them to preach mercy and reconciliation as the heart of the good news. The church is authentic, attractive and effective precisely when it's a refuge for failures and sinners. Peter and Paul led the way in this regard. It's worth mentioning that they had some very strong personal disagreements about the direction the church should take. Peter devoted his energies to serving the mostly Jewish Christian communities, while Paul went out to evangelize Gentiles. They clashed over whether Gentiles had to observe the Mosaic law and be circumcised in order to be full Christians. Paul confronted Peter about the freedom Gentile converts had in Christ. The first church council in Jerusalem, which was a feisty affair, resolved this issue to allow the community to expand beyond its original Jewish identity. Again, the witness of their struggle and the need for the Holy Spirit to move the church forward teaches an important lesson to our contemporary church. Change is necessary. Even saints can disagree. Consensus is possible under the Spirit's guidance. Unity and diversity, not uniformity or the suppression of dissent, is built into the history of the church. Paul's house churches, convened by charismatic leaders, including women, remain part of church history, alongside the emergence of the more Jewish model for a male hierarchical priesthood. Alternatives stand in the wings to help the church adapt to changing times and needs. Tradition means handing on essentials, not holding on to cherished past forms, even when they are no longer effective. The spread of the gospel has always involved adaptation, enculturation, and dialogue between generations and diverse interests, between East and West, across sectarian and religious lines. Our Holy Father Francis is giving a clear lead in so many areas. Celebrating the memory of St. Peter and Paul, apostles, help us remember how much courage was required by early church leaders to achieve what we now enjoy. We honour them if we imitate that same Spirit today. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful people and kindle in us the fire of your great love. Help us to renew the face of the earth by loving unconditionally as Jesus taught us. Come, Holy Spirit.